So this season has been a bit mad. We've got a takeover, we have a proper stadium now in production, we absolutely shattered our transfer record, and I made some weird confused sex noises looking at a Bulgarian man.
Oh, now we're talking. I don't know.
Right now, of course, over on stream, we are doing the transfer window with a budget of, I'm just going to tell you this time because I can't believe I'm saying this, £60 million, which I genuinely think is more than double what we've ever had at any stage in this save so far. So join us over there after you watch the shenanigans over here. The VODs of all the streams can, of course, be found on the second channel with the link in the description. They go up the day after every stream at 4:15. But for now, Season 8 of Building a Nation with MTK Budapest was one of expectations. We hoped that if we could get all 5 of the Hungarian sides that were representing us in Europe into some form of group stages this year, we'd hope to be able to gain enough coefficient points to start to mount a challenge on the Dutch and hopefully take 7th spot in the rankings away from them. But before we get to all that stuff, it's probably a good time to talk about everybody's favourite thing, transfers. And firstly, starting of course with the outs. But this year they've been very, very, very few and far between. Chris Ellis left the club for 1.2 million to join the Vancouver Whitecaps. He was a player that we brought in sort of because we could, so it was good to get him off the wage bill and earn 1.2 million quid. Genuinely, the only other out of note this season is Jordan Ross, the freebie that we got from Ross County. He's now gone permanently after his loan at Kexmet, a successful loan at Kexmet, has now gone permanently on a free transfer to Újpest, one of the better sides in our league. Hasn't played a lot this season, but for a free transfer, maybe they'll get some money down the line. But that is literally it as far as the outs. It's been very much a season of ins rather than outs, as you can tell from the size of our loan farm, which we'll get to in just a bit. But on the topic of outs, I just wanted to show you once again Miguel Angel Montiel, probably our best player. You might notice that his value has now dropped, down to 11 to 13 million pounds. To give you an idea, it was 50 less than a month ago. But basically what happened was we were starting to get rather large bids, one of which was from Barca for 50 million pounds. We kept him because I genuinely believe this guy is a world beater and actually could win a Champions League with us. But as a bit of a joke, basically, I decided to re-counter offer them with 92 million and they actually accepted it. Now, obviously, he's worth everything to us, so I was never going to sell him, not even for 92 million pounds, but it's just nice to know that it was possible, right? Although I have just noticed the value drop as of today. That's really irritating that his value has now fallen by 40 million pounds because reasons. Right then, that's enough of that stuff. Let's get to the transfers in, because as always, there is tons of them, but I'm going to obviously highlight the very best ones and maybe gloss over a few of the ones that are mostly loan farm fodder, I suppose, because we do sign a lot of them. Alex Arce, mainly brought in to play for some of the loan farm teams, but still a solid player. He actually joined us with a broken ankle, which wasn't exactly ideal from him, but he has been recovering from that, and he's an okay player. £300,000, can't really complain. We also picked up Pit Bossy, for no other reason than his name is Pit Bossy. Man really should be working in a casino and not at a football club, but, you know, needs must. Then there was 650k signing Miguel Sanchez, another Peruvian, this time Ken with international caps. He's still at the club at the moment. He has spent most of the season back on loan at Alianza Lima, though. Hopefully, though, we'll get him into the loan farm system for this season, but I think there's a quality player here. Already has caps. Then we dropped 2.1 million on Norwegian striker Evan Polden, just because we really liked the sort of tent poles of his attributes. He's out on loan at Pakshi at the moment and has had an okay season. I think he's been mainly deployed out wide, though, given his amount of assists this year. So not ideal considering the money we dropped, but I still think there's an okay player in these attributes. Next up, a much bigger signing. This is Donovan De La Cruz. Yes, he does sound like an action hero, and sometimes he plays like it. Sometimes. £6.5 million was the signing of him, and I believe at the time that was our record transfer. Don't worry, he's not the one we shattered the record with. Well, I guess he was at the time, but trust me, it gets much, much better / worse. Needless to say, fast right back. Well, he's got good pace, which is really nice. Relatively low acceleration, solid, good passing, good crossing. I think there's a really quality player here for the future, and I believe genuinely a future Mexican international once he gets a little bit more game time, but he's very much become our sort of backup right back and has still played a ton of football this season, especially in the league. Then there is Redacted. I'm not going to say much more about Redacted, other than he cost us £1 million. He's been out on loan this season, and he's actually done quite well. Just don't anger him. I can't talk about him anymore. I'm already being told to stop, sorry. Then we have Alejo Fernandez, already a Uruguayan international. He got the caps after he'd actually signed the contract for us, though. £1.6 million signing from Defensor Sporting. Again, did a little bit of a loan back there, and he has just really hit the ground running. Actually considered a wonder kid. His attributes have grown tremendously since he actually signed for us in the first place. Great on both feet, can play on both sides of the defense as well as in the middle. He's a very interesting player. Actually could play DM as well. I really like this guy, and since he's joined us, he's made a lot of substitute appearances and has covered away a few positions for us. I really like him. Then there's a £3.1 million signing of Bruno Alves. Now, we were hoping for a little bit more on the potential side of things. Obviously, you sometimes get let down when the player actually joins you, but fact is, he's also considered a wonder kid by the game, which is kind of interesting to me, if I'm honest. He's ended up out on loan at Ferencváros this season. To give you an idea of some of the levels of clubs now we can loan players to, Ferencváros were willing to take some of these kinds of loans, and you know what? 13 goals for them in 45 appearances. 9 assists suggests he's been playing out wide again. In fact, we can have a look. 39 of his appearances have been out wide, but 9 assists and 7 goals from the wing is pretty solid. 6 in 6, though, when he's played through the middle for them. He could be really useful, and getting them those kind of players is what really strengthens these teams in Europe. Then we had Steven Solis, because we love a Solis. We have it on the last save too. £300,000 signing, but he's on loan to Debrecen right now. Quality player, I feel like. To get these kind of guys to play in the Hungarian league, even if he doesn't get those Colombia caps, I do feel like they're the types of guys that could end up becoming Hungarian, and then we can have, well, I guess, Steven Solis, which actually sounds great because it sounds like Sean Connery speaking. Oh yeah, and then we signed Joe Bellingham. I can't believe we did this. So, as always, we check every single summer for players being released by Premier League clubs, and we saw that in Bellingham, and everyone's hearts lit up with desire. And then we saw it was Joe Bellingham, and everyone went, that's still really quite good. So we brought him in. We were still kind of fascinated by the fact that he was willing to take 5.75k a week in wages to come and play in Hungary. He's been at Man United for 5 years and played 5 matches for them in that period, and I don't believe any of them were from the start. So the first thing we did was retrain him to play as a roaming playmaker, which is where he's mostly operated this season. That kind of passing quality with decent tackling, we felt that he could do a decent job there. And he kind of has 20 starts for us, 14 appearances there as well, 4 goals, 8 assists. If it wasn't for the emergence of someone else, which we're going to talk about later when we get to the stats, I think he would have had an even better season. But just the fact that we could say we've got one of the Bellinghams playing in Hungary, it's just a nice treat to join Malero and Brahim Diaz and all the various other players that we've picked up from the Island of Lost Toys, I suppose. But yeah, it's nice to finally give him a home and some football. Next up is René Tulberg, a Danish sort of DM/CM type player we picked up for £550,000 from Norgeland. Now, you might notice that he's joined us directly after Job Bellingham. So the reason for this is that René has a brother, a regen. He is a regen. His brother is Andreas Tulberg, who currently plays for Bayern Munich and is absolutely ridiculous. He has 7 caps for Denmark already, but I just love seeing regen brothers, and our hope was, if we bring these 2 brothers in, you never know. Maybe one day we can have Jude Bellingham and Andreas Tulberg. Probably not likely, but with the transfer budget we've got, who knows, eh? Then we signed Jordan Millward on loan from Liverpool, because you've got to get Millie when you can. We also brought in Fernando Ovelar on a free transfer because he was released, and we just needed to see that Fernando Ovelar played in this save for us. He hasn't actually yet, but maybe one day he will. Oh, Fernando, what have they done to you? Next up, something I'm very, very excited about. This is Joshua De Bruyne. We've actually been tracking him for a couple of years since he came through the academy at Orlando Pirates, and we wanted him. So the moment he turned 18 and was eligible to sort of sign for us and would talk to us, we put that 600k bid in. He's joined us. He just kind of does a bit of everything. He's an absolute pace merchant with wonderful speed. Obviously, no natural fitness, which means his long term of his career is pretty unlikely. He's quite diminutive as well, but great temp pulse here, good composure. He kind of ticks a lot of boxes, basically, and I was very excited to see what he could do. Biggest issue is we loaned him to Molfehovar upon his joining, and then they didn't play him a single time, which is mad because he's really good. So hopefully next season we'll get him a loan to a slightly lower Hungarian side, and he can really start to flourish because he needs football. And now that brings us on to that aforementioned record signing for us, and you're going to be like, what were you thinking? At the time, in our defense, it did look like not a good deal. It was never going to be a good deal, but it looked like sort of signing that would be like a game changer to set us up for the future. So I'd like to introduce you to our new signing. This is Francois Xavier Hardy. He's joined us from Anderlecht for 23.5 million. I know what you're thinking. I know. And let's not be around the bush. He is good. He has fantastic temp poles for the striker role with his dribbling, finishing, first touch, all being 15 plus. He's reasonably quick. In fact, I would say on the quicker side. He's got good composure, is off the ball, and flair actually really high as well. Long shots is the only sort of letdown there, but then who needs that on an actual striker role? No tackling. Do not ask this man to tackle. He's got very good technique though. He has the same PPM as Josef Ehring, which is one of the reasons we liked him, although he's more sort of stronger on the one foot rather than the other. Fact is, if he had 5-star potential right now, I think we'd always sat here saying that's a solid pickup, even if the price is a little bit excessive, which it just is. It's too much money and we shouldn't have spent it. But nevertheless, and that he's not going to be a homegrown player as well, which we didn't remember until after we'd signed him. So obviously it's a massive overpayment, but I do still believe there is a player in here. He has just netted the 1 goal for us. Oh yeah, sorry, I've just completely forgot. The other thing is he had a broken ankle when he joined us. And we knew that as well. We signed him with a broken ankle. He joined us with a broken ankle. Failed his medical. He could have anything wrong with him, honestly. He could have multitudes of heart conditions and we just wouldn't know. It's a slightly regretful decision, but I'm determined to make the best of Francois Xavier Hardy because he's called Francois Xavier Hardy. You'd do the same. We move. Next, though, we picked up a gentle giant with his 9 aggression. It's Connor Lithgow, 6'5", but actually not the slowest for his sort of height to go with it. For £2.9 million from Celtic for the now 19-year-old who's been out on loan at Puskás and has actually scored 11 goals for them and 10 in his 16 matches over half a season for them. And genuinely, I believe that he's the reason that Puskás have pulled themselves out of relegation trouble this season. He's been stellar for them. He really, really has. And I think tall strikers, especially in the latest update, are going to be even more important.
I reckon, actually, he's going to have really good passing. I reckon really good passing low finishing. So like 10 finishing, but like 12 passing.
Alexander Jensen brought in another player that's gone out on loan to Puskás, but he'll probably come back in the summer because he's not getting the game time that he needs. He's getting under 21 caps for Sweden, though. But I guess why would they need him when they've got Connor Lithgow? And lastly, literally lastly, Pius Piggle. I realise his name is probably pronounced Pius Piggle, but it's Pius Piggle to me. I mean, yes, we did spend £200,000 on a joke. It's Pius Piggle. Tell me you wouldn't do the same. And every year on the 31st of March, when Next Gen Day comes around, we have a lovely little competition that we like to play where Chat and I like to guess the nationality and club together that the number one player in the Next Gen list is going to play for each year. And obviously, it's a massive shot in the dark, as it is every year. And then this happened.
Spanish Valencia. I'm thinking Spanish Valencia. Okay. Show me the goods.
What I'm saying is, if you need next week's lottery numbers, get in touch. The league itself, as always, is somewhat of a foregone conclusion at the moment, but the gap definitely does seem to be coming down. We're not anywhere near as... We're still winning loads and doing incredible things, but we don't seem to be quite as emphatic as we were before. Still a 22-point gap, but we didn't go unbeaten this year. Ferencváros beat us in the derby by 3 goals to 1. They scored all 3 of their first shots of the game. It was not a good start from us there, but they actually ended up coming 3rd this season, once again behind Molfehova, who didn't play in Europe this year, and I suspect that lack of sort of distraction really did help them get into second place, but you can really see the goal differences on those two as they've very much emerged as like the top 2 beyond us. But now to us in Europe. Now the beautiful thing about us in Europe this year is we got to go straight in at the group stages, or league phase if you like, the Omni League as someone once referred to it. So that's always the best thing. It does mean less games, but it also means, well, less games. We started off in decent style with a fantastic 1-0 victory away at Inter. Now this year's the plan was actually to start Stanislav Suhy as our main striker and let Ehring be sort of the backup this year, but then Suhy broke his leg and missed most of the first half of the season. So Ehring was back in, doing Ehring things, and the cupboard once again sent Inter back in time, and they lost. Next was about as straightforward a win as you can get against St. Gallen. Diaz and Malero with the goals. Velázquez with a straight red card. The man is literally Joao Polina now. I'm convinced of it. Just worse, because he actually gets sent off. But then unfortunately, we came a cropper in Madrid after an excellent start, taking the lead through Flavian Moors, and playing genuinely very well, despite not getting a lot of the ball. But then 2 goals from Gonzalo Ramos sunk us, and I think we were a bit unlucky, but then maybe we were lucky to win against Inter, so it kind of balances, I suppose, sort of. But then, oh boy, did we get back into business. A 92nd minute own goal.
Come on, buddy, you can do it. As Navarro! Just wait. Oh no, it's not going to be one of these because it's an own goal.
And we were in dreamland, frankly, because that is a huge result for us and just a massive win in the group to give us a chance at actually going top 8, which was then compounded with a brilliant 3-1 victory over Napoli, 2 goals for Navarro, who's been fantastic this year and has started to unseat Diaz in the AM role, and then 1 from Joe Bellingham. Faradona did get 1 back for Napoli during that, but we were just thoroughly excellent, making it 4 wins out of 5. And we then faced one of the 2, in theory, easy games, along with the St. Gallen game, away at Hoffenheim, and they put up a bloody good performance. And if it wasn't for, yet again, Josef Ehring coming up and being the hero for us with the pen and then the other finish to give us a very, very close victory. On the night, this could have easily been a draw, so we did well to get through that, but that was 5 wins out of 6 and sat us on 15 points, as Velázquez did his best Polina impression yet again, getting a red card within 18 minutes of the match. 2 yellow cards in the space of 15 minutes, and it was just over at that point. They took the lead through Musa. We did actually get level through Suhi's finally back in the team at this point after Christmas, but then another goal from Musa and 1 from Gaspar sunk us at home. This was a match that I feel like we should have won, and we were just kind of getting to grips with things at that point, and it kind of sunk any chance we felt we had at getting top 8. And then we went to Anfield and things got worse, despite a thunderbolt from Abdoulaye Seri, a player I'm going to show you later on because he's been a fantastic option this year. Navarro then decided to get red carded in the 18th minute. He slid in from about 800 yards away, kind of like Sol Campbell with the never-ending slide tackle, and the straight red card for that as well. Then 2 from Nunez, 1 from Luis Diaz, sunk us very comfortably, Liverpool with a better side, and that of course left any chance of us getting top 8 off the table. All in all, we ended up finishing 14th, which isn't bad. 5 wins is still very solid. We got into the top half of the bottom half, if you like, and that's really where we wanted to be at this point. Kudos to Red Bull Salzburg, though, for actually getting in there, and only 16 points were required this year to get top 8, which is the most frustrating thing, because even a little solid result against Benfica possibly could have snuck us in there, but that's life, right? That's what they all say. Also, shout out Marseille going 5th. But our reward in the next round, or the playoff round, if you like, was Tottenham. Not an easy tie at all. Honestly, in the first half of this game, we played them off the park. 2 more goals from Alberto Malero threw us into a 2-goal advantage at Spurs, and we were looking fantastic at that point, and then things started to turn around. We gave away a dumb penalty, and then Højbjerg scored a free kick which deflected off our wall, and all of a sudden it was like, what's going on here? Before Alvarado put us back in front, and then Harry Kane scored again for a 3-3 draw. pretty fair result, honestly, but we really should have done better being 2-0 up. Oh, and there was another red card in this one as well. Our third consecutive Champions League game with a red card. But then we finally avoided a game with a red card, and Stanislav Suhi's goal was enough for us to beat Spurs 4-3 on aggregate and sneak through to the next round. Just about fair, I would say, as once again, Joao Virginia pulling out some great stops to be man of the match. But unfortunately, our reward for all this was Liverpool. Again. Then again, we did knock them out last season in the Champions League, but we felt unlikely to make that work twice in a row. And we found ourselves 2-0 down inside 8 minutes and being like, well, this is over for us. But Malero gave us hope in the 13th minute and we played amazing. But we absolutely battered Liverpool for the rest of this match. And once we brought on Yakubu Yuboa, things just changed. I'm just going to let me explain.
Sorry, I was just curious because of the 5 gifted subs and Yuboa's in. Come on, Yakubu! Yes! Yakubu Yuboa. We've been the better team. Airing, round the side for Yuboa! He scored again! It's 3-2! MTK 3, Liverpool 2, and Yakubu Yuboa writes his name into MTK history. What an absolute goat.
But truth be told, I feel like this should have been a bigger win than a 3-2, and that's always the issue with these things, especially when you go to Anfield and this happens. So Liverpool took the lead on the night through Konate, but Josef Ehring was able to find an equaliser for us in the 65th minute. Moments later, though, Mateus Nunes put them back in front, and we knew at that point that things were heading for extra time. And then this happened.
Are you shitting me? That's the goal that's going to knock us out of Europe. It's a header from the edge of the box. What is the goalkeeper doing? Oh, we played so well in the home game. Oh, unless. No way. Pereira's in. Pereira's in. Pereira's in. And he's scored.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Matt likes a nice iced bun. And will ice your buns too. Smile, smile, smile.
But unfortunately, in that extra time period, Nunez and Sam Ingram, a youngster, were able to sink us. So after the wonders of us reaching the final last year, we were out of the round of 16. It just wasn't our year, really. I still think it's a cracking side we've got here, and we are developing nicely, but just those extra injuries to key players, some bad draws in places, and some less than stellar results didn't really do us that much of a favour. Still some good coefficient points for us. So as for the other Hungarian sides, I'm going to cut to the chase a little bit more than last time. So essentially, the only side that didn't make it to the group stages of one of the tournaments was Debrecen. They were sadly knocked out by RB Leipzig. Just a ridiculously tough tie. They were never going to beat them. But due to some others dropping down, we actually ended up with Ferencváros, Újpest, and Budapest Honvéd all in the Conference League. And that is a great chance for a lot of points. The points is exactly what they got. And Budapest Honvéd surprising everybody to come out on top with 4 victories against Rosenborg, Swansk, Astana, and Ararat. But just in behind them as well was Újpest with 4 victories of their own against Zorya, Niksic, OB, and of course CSKA Sofia. Ferencváros actually finished the lowest of the 3 with just the 3 victories themselves against Bati Borisov, Alanikos, and of course Niksic. But there you go. 7th, 9th, and 10th in the Conference League. Really good. And they made light work of it. A 4-1 victory for Újpest away at Dnipro, 2-0 to Ferencváros against Rosenborg. And in the second leg, things just got better. 6-0 on aggregate for Ferencváros, 8-2 on aggregate for Újpest, sailing into the next round of the tournament. In the next round, though, things got a bit tougher. Ferencváros drew Lazio, but did beat them 3-2. A great win away for Honvéd at Orbi gave them a 1-0 victory, and Újpest took a brilliant 1-1 draw against Leicester. Easily the best side in the entire tournament were Leicester, so that was a really strong result. And things only got better from there. Budapest Honvéd actually lost at home against Orbi, but won on penalties. Újpest somehow knocked Leicester out of the Conference League in extra time there with brilliant goals from a penalty from Tyler Morton, goals from Bamba and Faye. Red card for Leicester certainly helped, but unfortunately Ferencváros were knocked out on penalties by Lazio after a 3-2 defeat in Italy. So we still got 2 sides through, but it was so close to being 3. And then in the next round, hilariously, Budapest Honvéd drew Újpest. So we were guaranteed a side in the semi-final because they were playing each other. A win away from home for Újpest made the most sense. They're by far the better side. Except it wasn't, because Budapest Honvéd won away from home and won on penalties to knock Újpest out and reach their first semi-final of the save, which is just kind of mad. But at that point, it was just a bridge too far. 2-0 victory for Ron, followed up by a 1-0 victory away from home, and that was kind of all she wrote, as the French would go on to face RB Leipzig in the final, who were absolutely fantastic just through the entire tournament. But just getting this far in, having teams play against each other in the knockouts, getting 3 sides that deep and 1 to the semi-finals was a huge points day for Hungary, as that left us with a 15.2 point season. And I would have never dreamed of getting that kind of number, particularly with us losing a side so early in Europe. I just thought there's no way that the dilution would allow us to get that, but we did. 15.2. Our last 3 seasons have been absolutely fantastic. Most importantly, you can see we outscored the Netherlands comfortably, and that means that we did in fact achieve our goal of leapfrogging them yet again. So we now got up into 7th place in the coefficients. Every single season, I think, for the past 5 years, we have gained superbly, and we're continuing to doing it. And we've still got 2 more quite bad seasons to come off. There's still a great chance that I believe if we can just average out these same kind of results over the next couple of years, there's a very good chance that we could gain at least another 13 points and start to be looking up into the high 70s to getting onto the tails of nations like France. And that is where we really need to be. I think Portugal would get within the next 2 seasons and start to get quite close to France. We might need a bit of drop-off from one of the others to get close to that top 4, but I can still feel that it's definitely capable, particularly once the money starts coming into the other Hungarian sides. Youth intake this year was not spectacular. We weren't expecting much, and we got exactly that. Akos Ronaseski was the best player in the lot. He scored a lot of goals for our under-19 side so far, so maybe there is a bit of a player there, but the man has absolutely no concentration. He's quite literally ADHD walking here. As for the team stats overall, Suhi was actually the top scorer with 29, but despite missing a lot of the season. Ehring did still manage 22 goals despite not playing all that much this year, so that's definitely nice to see for him. But you'll notice Alberto Malero, 27 goals from our left-sided player. I nearly sold him 18 months ago, and then he had one of the best assist seasons I've had for ages. And then this year, he goes on and does that. 27 goals, 35 goal contributions. He's been truly extraordinary. And also Navarro, really doing a brilliant job this year. 18 goals for him, 11 assists, totally kicking Brahim Diaz's ass this year, truth be told. When you look at the number of matches they've played between them, Diaz has played a little bit less, but like he's got 10 less goals, which is just astonishing. And he's done okay on the assist thing, but Navarro's definitely got the role now. Yakubu Iboa got 19 assists this season and 8 goals. Still underperforming on the goal side of things, but he has really stepped up his ability to create chances for us this season. Has been absolutely wonderful. You'll also know Abdoulaye Seri, 12 assists this season. He has become a monster out of nowhere. Look at the state of this gentleman. 235k was the signing from ASEC Mimosas. He did a loan spell back there, and then he joined us. And he didn't have 5-star potential or anything like that. He was just a good player. And now he's just becoming an absolute beast. He's a truly wonderful footballer. Brilliant passing, such intelligent play on the ball. He could even cover centre-back for us if we need him to at times. He's just that good. You might also notice the lack of Yoshi Nakanishi. So, unfortunately, Yoshitaka Nakanishi has a very, very serious injury. He's finally back into the rehab phase now, but he damaged his cruciate ligaments in December. And that was 6 months ago, and he's still going to be out for another 2 months. He's an 8-month injury, which has obviously cost him dearly as far as his development goes. As for the loan farm, it's 98 players. It was 99 at one point, but we recalled a guy because he wasn't getting any football. But it's still not quite to the 100. I think we get 100 this summer. There's absolutely no doubt about that. The highest sort of potential player in there, of course, is still Portia. Most assists out on loan is Aguilar with his 22 goals and 11 assists. He's becoming a flourishing striker at Ferencváros. I think he's the top scorer of them all. No, Antoine Merle got 24 goals for Kijvara in the second tier as they earned promotion as well. Papa Faye still banging them in. Redacted, don't talk about him, still scoring a lot of goals as well. Just a lot of goals being spread out amongst the leagues, and this is what we want. I think we could get 150 players out on loan in this save, which is just far and away what I was expecting. Now, finances, we actually only have £60 million in the bank at the moment because obviously that huge transfer deal, and we have literally the same in transfer budget, so obviously we won't be spending it all, and I think there might be some quite big sales this summer just to sort of keep the club FFP compliant and whatnot, but I still think we're going to be targeting some excellent young signings for the future. We're still going to be bringing in a lovely crop of players no matter what we do, but there just haven't been so many players that I'm like, ooh, really excited about this year. Not the likes of, you know, your Velasquez's and your Suhis or Brandon Silvers. I haven't really found any of those guys this year for some reason, so we might have to do a bit more deep dive transfers, which is probably what we're doing over on stream right now. Our main aim for next year is just to go as far as we can and try to get some more bloody coefficient points. So if you've enjoyed this video, drop a like. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Join us over on stream right now, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Happy nation building.